Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans for Ohio State fans. From the West Coast, I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Thursday, September 4th, 2025, and I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor, Paige Van Horn from Denver. PVH, how's it going, amigo?
It's going well, my friend. Good to chat with you after a Buckeye victory. And let's give a preemptive happy birthday to the Corcoran twins, which I think
happy
will turn
birthday,
37 tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. and Mikey. And Mike, don't forget they're freaking twins, man.
That's right. I always forget that. Happy birthday, Mike and Trish. And also
it's the Corcoran podcast.
And also a shout out to our fallen brother, Chad Plummer, who is under the weather and unable to join us today. So Chad, I hope you feel better soon, my friend. PVH, your Ohio State Buckeyes are the country's new number one team in both major polls after last Saturday's 14-7 win over then number one Texas. And that's where I'd like to spend most of our time today, buddy, looking back at that game. Our listeners have not yet heard your take on that performance by the Buckeyes. Then, of course, we'll look ahead to Ohio State's next opponent, the Grambling State Tigers, who invade the Horseshoe this Saturday afternoon. But first, let's have a look back at last Saturday's huge win over Texas. The Buckeyes held the Longhorns to 336 yards of total offense and forced 4 different turnovers on downs, which included 2 fourth down stops inside the Ohio State 10-yard line. The Silver Bullets harassed Arch Manning all afternoon, holding the vaunted Longhorn offense scoreless until the 3:28 mark of the fourth quarter. Manning finished the day an underwhelming 17 of 30 for 170 yards. 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Now, it was not a Mona Lisa on offense for the Buckeyes, only 215 total yards, which was their lowest output on offense since last season's home loss to Michigan. But it was a solid debut for Buckeye quarterback Julian Sand in his first career start, 13 of 20 for 126 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, those numbers would have been a lot better if it weren't for 4 uncharacteristic drops by Ohio State receivers, including 2 by Jeremiah Smith. Otherwise, Sand took great care of the football, avoiding the fatal mistakes that young quarterbacks often make in games like this one. C.J. Donaldson's 1-yard touchdown run in the second quarter and Carnell Tate's juggling 40-yard touchdown catch early in the fourth quarter accounted for the Buckeyes' 14 points in this game. PVH, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. What did you see in last Saturday's performance by the Buckeyes that stood out to you?
So I actually didn't think of it until you just, and that's why I love your preamble, because it like sparks all these things, that I maybe hadn't thought of before. But if I'm not mistaken, didn't Smith drop the first pass thrown to him as a freshman, and he did the same thing as a sophomore?
That's right. It was, I believe, his first. Yeah, that's right.
And then maybe he dropped his second. So I love the fact, Jeremiah just get it out of the way, and then just you be you.
That's right.
But he does, come on, that's 2 years in a row. It's a pattern. So what did I see? So I was thinking about this, and I was like, okay, what did Ryan Day see? And if I'm not mistaken, on Texas's first possession, it might have been their first play, or it's definitely on their first possession. Arch goes back to throw the ball, and he literally must have killed like 17 Ohio earthworms. How badly he threw that freaking ball into the dirt.
That's right.
Like, it wasn't even freaking close.
Yeah, it was the first play from scrimmage. Yeah. To DeAndre Moore.
That's what I was thinking. I thought it was maybe the first play. And if I'm Ryan Day and I'm sitting there, like, I'm on the headset, and he's like, that kid's not beating us today.
Yeah, right.
and like, whatever, right? And I like, we're gonna get into the X's and O's and all the game planning and stuff. But I remember like that first pass, I was like, ooh, that's not good.
No.
Like, it wasn't even freaking close.
Like 3 yards short. Into the turf.
It was terrible. So again, this isn't going to be the Arch Manning pile on you suck pod, right? Like, but what I think happened was literally where I was going with this is like, okay, boys, this is going to be a street fight. That kid's probably not going to beat us. Mm-hmm. We're going to buckle down, right? And I think, the game plan was the game plan going in. But I also think it's the maturation of Day, right? Where like
Yeah.
think back to like the 21-22 Clemson game, where he says like, or even the Georgia semifinal game where he's like, I'm just gonna freaking air this out. I got weapons all over. I'm an offensive guy, and I'm just gonna kill you with a Ryan Day air raid. Whereas, yeah, you know what? It felt way more Urban Meyer-esque to me. Manage the game. Let's win this game. And, like he's now on a heater, right? The Buckeyes are officially on a heater.
Yes, they are.
As far as the teams that they have beaten in the last 6 games, or 5. Is it 5? It's 5 games. I mean, that's absurd. The only caveat I would, and so then I critique my own self when I say this, and I'm curious on your thoughts of this, because I think Day has finally kind of maybe cracked the code, and we might come back to eat crow on this later, but he has learned how to win these games, coach these games, manage these games. But you could make the argument, well, yeah, maybe that's what he did against Michigan and it didn't work. But I just feel like when you're playing like-minded opponents, manage, get a feel for the game, understand what's working, what's not working, and just go get the W. And he has clearly found something.
I think you're right about that. I think, well, first of all, I think what you're describing is just good complementary football. Run clock and really mitigate mistakes with a young quarterback. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't, the prettiest thing in the world to watch, but it was effective. It worked. And then he said in the post game that looking back on it now, that he could have actually put more on Julian Saint's shoulders than he did, because Saint acquitted himself very well, I thought. He looked, very calm, cool, and collected out there. I said that on Sunday. So, yeah, I think to your point of Ryan Day's maturation as a head coach, we saw that was definitely on display. And then to your point about the heater that he's on, if you count both the Penn State win and the Indiana win, in addition to what they did during the postseason and now this, beating number 1 Texas, this is a heater of which the likes of which we have not seen, I don't think, in our lifetimes. Maybe you go back to peak Woody Hayes, and they weren't playing as many games back then. And of course, clearly there wasn't the college football playoff, so there were no Ohio State teams of the past ever had the opportunity to rip off 4 in a row in a playoff setting as Day has done. We are in uncharted waters, I think.
Dude, totally uncharted territory.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Like I was going to say, it kind of feels Alabama-esque. I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But yeah, the amount of W's that he's rolled off, right?
Against top 5 opponents, elite opponents.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And, dude, it goes back to, and like Harbaugh was right? You were kind of born on third base, Ryan Day. Not to say he didn't freaking earn it, but, not many people just walk in to be a head coach at a place like Ohio State, and he's had to take his lumps, and he clearly has, and, fantastic on him that he's figuring some things out. And I don't think there's any debate on that anymore, right? And I go back to like Urban Meyer, right? Like for all his warts, especially, at the end, that guy just knew how to win big games. But guess what? He learned that at Bowling Green. He learned that at Utah. He got to Florida, and then he did the same thing at Ohio State. You don't learn that overnight.
That's
without being the head coach. It's just different. I don't know why. I'm not a coach, and but it's a thing.
We've seen it in other sports, right? And who knows if Ohio State is becoming a dynasty or, evolving into something like a dynasty, but we've seen it with other teams in other sports that have become dynasties, right? Like Michael Jordan, for instance. Not that I'm comparing Ohio State to what Jordan did, but, Jordan had to take his lumps, and he had to learn how to get through the Pistons, to get through the Celtics in order to finally start to win championships. And it feels like Ryan Day has taken his own journey, learning how to win these type of games. And that's what I called the win on Sunday. It was a championship DNA type win, kind of a muscle memory. We just know how to do this kind of a win. Like there's institutional knowledge within the program now of how to win these games. And conversely, and we talked a little bit about this on Sunday or on Saturday after the game, PBH, Texas does not know how to do this yet.
No.
They're learning how to do this. They're learning how to find those extra inches in the margins in matchup games to get over the hump. Penn State has the same problem, right? They haven't done it yet either. So, it's fascinating. This program is in a place right now that we have not seen previously, certainly in our lifetimes, PBH, to just know how to win these games. And it's really exciting. And we're only just getting started here. What other thoughts did you have from the game?
Yeah, and like you've been talking, winning the margins, right? And that's what that is. It's just the subtleties that it takes to win these games, right? You can do it once, and, maybe in midseason. But to rattle off what he's just done, that's it's now a pattern, right? And it's a solidified pattern. Texas will be fine, right? Arch will be fine. I mean, on that first Ohio State drive, right? I mean, they had 2 killer penalties, but Ohio State took advantage of it. And even Ryan Day talked about it. He's like, look, that took 8 minutes off the clock, right? And so he gave more praise than I thought to the offense. He's like, look, when you have a star-studded offense like theirs, I'm not quite sure if we can say that, but you could definitely say their defense is going to be top 5 without question, right? But those guys are out there. And so, take advantage of what teams are giving you. And I think that is where Day has probably, I think turned the corner, and it's going to just be huge for him going forward.
They played a clean game in a lot of really important areas, only 2 penalties for 15 yards. They did not turn the ball over, whereas, that interception by Arch Manning, Ohio State then converted into their second touchdown of the game in the fourth quarter. You go up 14-0 in a game like this, that's basically an insurmountable lead. I know Texas made a little run there at the end, but and again, what we saw is this defense in the red zone. I mean, I love that motto, right? Give us an inch and we'll defend it. This defense, again, really, really tough to score in close. You either have to hit them with a big play or you're not going to score. So that's another thing I think is a part of championship DNA, right? Not beating yourself and then getting stops when you absolutely need to have them. And they made just enough plays on offense as well to beat the number 1 team in the country. And I think Day said it in the post game, this team is going to be a completely different, the offense in particular, could be a completely different offense in 6 weeks from what it is now.
That's the scary part, right? And so the last thing I'll say, and kudos to Patricia, right? And I think everybody knows that, right? Like that guy schemed something up that was fantastic. But I texted maybe mid-second quarter. I was like, dude, Sayan looks fine to me. He's throwing darts. Yep. Guys are dropping balls. He's not hanging his head. He's not freaked out.
I like that.
I mean, he's making plays. Like, dude, that game was not too big for him. And that, oh my gosh, like, imagine what he potentially could be in 10 or 11 games from now, because the defense is the defense, right?
Defense is ready. It's championship level right now.
Oh my God, it's bonkers across the board. I mean, I'm like, who the hell's McLean? Who is this kid? Like, he's all over the field. Like, we knew about Downs. We thought Reese would be great. Matthews, we knew. Ibnosin, oh my God. Like, if that guy keeps his hands in his... Dude, he was lights out. So the defense is, like, jaw-dropping. The offense will just get better.
That's what I'm thinking. I
don't know how you deal with that.
Oh, no, I agree. And look, I mean, Ryan Day went out of his way in the postgame to talk about how they had an intentionally vanilla game plan aimed at eliminating mistakes. This was not Georgia 2021, where you're just firing darts, throwing caution to the wind, and just letting it rip. This was the polar opposite of that. It was funny, in the preview pod, you and I thought Ohio State would need to run the ball to win this game. You most especially hammered that point home in our preview pod. Yeah. But you know who agreed with you? Ryan Day and Brian Hartline, because according to Bill Landis, the Buckeyes run rate for this game was 60%, and it was 74% on first down. I mean, that is a big time commitment to running the ball in this game. And though it wasn't for lack of trying, unfortunately, the ground game for the Buckeyes on Saturday wasn't very effective, and that's really my only real critique. Only 2.3 yards per carry, and the Buckeyes were outrushed by the Longhorns, 166-77. I mean, PVH, look, I mean, in all honesty, a stat like that normally equates to a loss in a game like this. I would not suggest a repeat of those rushing totals against the likes of Penn State or Michigan, but the Buckeyes got away with it. And I do think you have to credit for the most part, a really nasty Texas front seven for the lack of success running the ball. But I don't know how you felt about it watching the game, but I didn't think C.J. Donaldson or James Peoples were, particularly good either. Donaldson was better. I'd say he was solid, 67 yards on 19 carries, but his longest run of the day was only 8 yards. Peoples, I thought, really struggled, only 20 yards on 10 carries with a long run of 6. The PFF run blocking grades were mostly in the high 50s for the starting offensive line, which aren't great. But I thought there were a decent number of plays that seemed blocked up pretty well. And you rarely
missed it. He just didn't see it.
Yeah, you rarely saw either back making the most of their carries in those situations, right? Like, finding the running lane, making that first tackler miss, yards after contact, which, Trey Henderson and Quinshon Judkins did extremely well for this offense a year ago. We just didn't see nearly enough of that on Saturday from Donaldson and Peoples. More from Donaldson than Peoples for sure. I said it on Sunday, though, I think Donaldson and Peoples will be fine, especially when Day and Hartline really begin to open up the offense and get that passing game going. But I do wonder, and again, I said this on Sunday, if the door is now ajar for Bo Jackson to start getting some carries. I mean, from what I watched in the spring game, I don't know if you saw any of the spring game, PBH, but Jackson, he definitely has more speed, is more shifty and explosive than Donaldson and Peoples. And I think, again, if I had one small critique of what we saw on Saturday, explosiveness in the run game, a guy that can just make shit happen, doesn't need the play to be blocked up perfectly. I think Jackson might be that guy, assuming he can hold up in pass protection. I don't know. What were your thoughts on the run game?
No, I agree wholeheartedly with you. Donaldson, more than people said, he just kind of was not seeing, the slight hole, right?
Right.
And it was clear that Donaldson was, in just one game, whatever. But I kept thinking to myself, that's not J.K. Dobbins. No. And guess what? J.K. Dobbins wasn't J.K. Dobbins his freshman year, too. So we're not throwing the kid under the bus. And it also made me laugh at one point. I was like, all those years I bagged on Trey. Like, I'd really like to have Trey right now. So that one's for you, CP. But that being said, that's... And again, right, like you're facing probably a top 3 defense, so
right out of camp. That's the other thing,
out
right?
Of camp, but that part wasn't great. So we'll see how it evolves. But like if you got another, and he's going to get his chances right the next 3 weeks, and then you'll see. And so if it, comes down to Bo Jackson or Donaldson's solid, though.
I think he's solid. Yeah. And I like his veteran experience, too. That was another player. The moment was clearly not too big for him. I felt very comfortable with him carrying the football against Texas for sure. But they do need a little bit more of an explosive element in the run game. And it might take them a few weeks to find it.
You're going to need that to win a game, right? I mean, it's now a 16-game season.
Right.
And, we talked about that on the last week's pod, right? Like the one thing that no one's talking about is who's our running back? And we got, a transfer from West Virginia and a redshirt freshman and a true freshman.
Yeah.
So,
Some big question marks there.
That's not a nothing burger. That being said, other than that, like I got no, what do you worry about with this team? Because Sane showed me something, even like, dude, that moment was just not too big for him. And if he gets over that, then oh boy, look out.
I totally agree. While 215 yards of total offense, I understand it's Texas' really good defense. I don't want us to get, used to a total like that. But I mean, clearly, the Buckeyes were trying to play complementary football and protect their young quarterback. And I don't expect we'll see another game plan like that the rest of the way.
Dude, and the other thing is we were how many field position was a huge factor.
That's a good point. I totally forgot about that. At least twice they started drives inside their own 3 or 4 yard line.
Yeah, and the biggest play of the game was saying he was 2 yards from being out of the end zone, right? Running for his life. Again, I don't know if it was Simmons or who it was. And he threw that
Simmons.
ball.
Yeah.
And it was Tate that came back for it, and it got them a first down. Like, you can make an argument that was as biggest play of the entire game, right?
I think so.
And he just was super composed with that. He's like, oh my God, here's a kid that's going to be playing. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL, bearing down on me, and I'm just going to throw this ball. It wasn't a dart, but shit,
that throw was ridiculous.
It was gigantic.
That throw was ridiculous. Yeah, so that was after Ohio State had stopped Texas at the 1 yard line on the Arch Manning tush push. And the Buckeyes were backed up at their own 1 yard line, needed to get a couple of first downs and just punt it away. And that was on a 3rd and 3 from the Ohio State 9, where Sane was flush from the pocket by Colin Simmons Jr. Made that throw from deep in his own end zone on the run, and he hit. And it was a great catch by Carnell Tate as well. Big time throw. If you're looking for reason to be optimistic about the Ohio State passing game, I said this on Sunday, that was a preview of coming attractions. Yeah. That was a big time throw, man. And then the other thing, honestly, we haven't talked much about the defense, which was really the reason Ohio State won this game. I have one big observation coming out of that, which was Arvell Reese, man. That dude looks like Abdul Carter 2.0. And look, maybe that's unfair. That's an unfair comparison to put on him after just one game. But Reese was a fucking revelation, even to those of us who were very familiar with his abilities and knew how important he'd be to this defense. Reese is a second Swiss Army knife that Matt Patricia can use just about anywhere on the field. Kayla Downs, of course, is the other. Of his 64 snaps on Saturday, Reese played 32 as a run defender, 13 in pass rush, and 19 in coverage. He finished the afternoon with 9 tackles, a game-high 5 pressures. He had the game's only sack. He also had a 4th down stop on their running back, C.J. Baxter, to end the Longhorns' first possession of the game. He had another stop on Arch Manning on 3rd down to force a Texas punt in the first quarter. He nearly got Manning for a sack on that play as well, but Manning just got barely over the line of scrimmage on that play. PVH, you have 2 versatile defenders like Reese and Downs. The possibilities for your defense are endless. I think they're a big reason why Patricia was able to show Arch Manning so many different looks on Saturday, so many different fronts and coverages and pressures. I'm not sure there are any other defenses in the country that have a more versatile duo than Reese and Downs. It is going to be so much fun watching those guys this season. Dude,
and I was just thinking, right? Like, there's a chance, just because of the position he plays, he goes ahead of Downs, and that means they could both be top 5 picks. They're definitely going to be top 15. I would bet money they'll be top 10 picks in next year's draft. Reese was he was a monster. He was everywhere. Even he actually even, Sonny Styles, who had a great game too, right? You're like, dude, there is just a plethora of talent, especially on the back 7, that, I think Patricia, like, if you're sitting there like, shit, man, like, matchups, like, I think, in the NFL, like, the parity is a real deal. In college, he's like, oh my God, this is amazing. What I can do with these guys and disguise them. Again, going back to, he definitely flustered Manning. He definitely, even Sarkisian said, like, man, their ability to, disguise things was next level. But, it was, damn, that was a hell of a performance by all those guys.
I totally agree. The back 7, we'll see how it goes. But early returns, first impressions, I think it might be better than last year, dude. I'm serious. I think Jermaine Matthews in year 3
or total defense. Back 7 or total
the back 7.
Oh,
but
yeah. I'm with you.
I think it might be better than last year. I mean, I think year 3 of Jermaine Matthews is better than Denzel Burke last year.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll see about Jalen McClain, but I've been very excited about him. As good as they were. Burke was a 5th round pick, and Jordan Hancock, as good as he was a 5th round pick. I mean, so it's interesting. They were very good college players, very important players for us on a national title run, but they were, the NFL didn't have quite the opinion of them that that many of us did. So it's on the table that this secondary could actually be a better unit than last year's. And as good as Cody Simon was, I mean, Cody Simon had about as good a single season as we've ever seen from an inside linebacker last season. You know, he was the Rose Bowl MVP. He was the defensive MVP of the national championship game, 115 some odd tackles. I think, 14, 15 tackles for loss, 7 or 8 sacks. That's about as good as you can hope for from an inside linebacker. And yet, Arvell Reese is probably better. So I'm really excited about what Ohio State can do defensively. And then Matt Patricia, we talked a little bit about this on text, and I made it sound like I was being a hater. All I was saying is he did have extra time to prepare for this game. I want to see week in and week out how Patricia looks as he's preparing for opponents. But yeah, I mean, that after one game looks like a freaking home run. Matt Patricia.
Yeah. The other thing, I hope we can keep him for more than 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Because that dude made himself some serious fucking cabbage,
For sure. I saw Doug Maurice making a comparison between Ryan Day and the last, 10 years of the Nick Saban era at Alabama, in that the program for him became kind of, he would hire these talented coordinators who for some reason, became reclamation projects, right? Maybe they got into some legal trouble, or, in the case of Steve Sarkisian, right, he was pushing through a serious drinking problem and kind of fell out of grace, but still a very talented coach. He goes to Tuscaloosa, rehabilitates his career, and then he's on to a great head coaching job somewhere. Maybe Ryan Day's program, maybe Ohio State has become that now, where they're just going to cycle through some talented coordinators who have been successful at other stops, but for some reason need to rehabilitate their image. They come to Columbus, knock it out for a season or two, and then they're on their way. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. To me, this looks like a 1 year rental of Patricia.
And you know what? That's fine. And there's a lot of guys out there like that. I mean, I go back. Kerry Combs probably cost us at least 1.5 national championships, right? And so again, you got Sark. Look at Lane Kiffin. Right,
another perfect example, right? He went through the Nick Saban rehabilitation program, and
dude. I mean, those guys are out there. I mean, bring them in, and hopefully you can get them for 2 years. But and the other thing, I could coach Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs, and I'm not, but just let the guys. And I think Knowles installed this super sophisticated thing, and blah, blah, blah. But just my players, and against Texas, maybe not, but my players are better than your players. Dude, let's just draw it up in the dirt. But when you have equal players, and then you can take a quarterback out of a game, which I think Patricia definitely did, then that is next level. That's when I want to pay you millions of dollars. And so, that guy killed it on Saturday.
Yeah, when you've got the Jimmies and the Joes and the X's and the O's, that is optimal. Combo. Yeah. All right, PVH. Any other observations from the Texas game before we look ahead to this Saturday?
I think that's it. I mean, I was thinking, to your point, seeding and making the playoffs, right? It makes the margin of error less. So Texas is. They're going to be fine, but man, Ohio State is in the driver's seat, right? I still probably think they maybe lose a game, but what's scary about them to me, and big picture, is the offense is Julian's going to get better, the offensive line's going to be better, and the running backs, theoretically, knock on wood, it's all going to be better. Mm-hmm. Man, that team could be a problem again.
And there are enough players from last year's team in leadership roles now that know how to do this. They know how to win these games.
Yeah.
All right, buddy, let's turn our attention to this Saturday. The Grambling State Tigers of the Southwestern Athletic Conference will invade the Horseshoe. This game thankfully is a 3:30 p.m. Eastern kick on the Big Ten Network.
Mazel tov, people. Mazel tov.
The Tigers come into this game 1-0 after a 55-7 win over Langston. The Grambling State program is known, of course, for legendary head coach Eddie Robinson, who retired in 1997 as the third winningest coach in college football history. He was the winningest coach at the time. He was surpassed by Joe Paterno. There is actually a Coach of the Year award named after Robinson, but I'm sorry to say for the Tigers, Eddie Robinson ain't walking through that door on Saturday. This will be the first and hopefully last meeting between these schools on the gridiron. This game is expected to be so lopsided, PVH, that a betting line likely won't be released until a few hours before kickoff. A BetMGM spokesman told the Columbus Dispatch this week, quote, "There's less interest in these games given the lopsided nature of the matchup, and the trading team, which sets the odds, prefers to spend more time focusing on games bettors are interested in," end quote. So
that is unprecedented in the college football sports betting world. Like, I've never heard that before, because I actually looked to see what the line was, and I get it. Like, sometimes there's not a line, but like who knows? Like, how?
Yeah, well, we could play guess the betting line if you want. That could be fun, and then we could see it. A line will eventually come out, we think, but it might not be until tomorrow or like right before kickoff.
Because I'm going to be in Las Vegas, so I need a line.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, for a little context, the last time Ohio State faced an opponent of this ilk was Florida A&M back in 2013. The Buckeyes bludgeoned the Rattlers in that game, 76-0. So. There's some important context, I think, for this matchup. Now, I'm going to recommend, PVH, that we skip the Concernometer and score predictions for this game. An Ohio State blowout is a foregone conclusion. This is more or less a glorified scrimmage. I'm much more interested in what areas you'd like the Buckeyes to be focused on improving from Texas in this game. So, PVH, what do you think in that regard?
Just run the ball, right? That, I mean, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Everything else was pretty, A minus, and again, and get saying some reps,
yes,
and give him confidence, and then maybe even Keenholz, right? Because you never know, like, somebody could get hurt.
Good point.
So get the other guys in there, no injuries.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you saw the Grambling head coach. Somebody asked him, like, what do you think about the game on Saturday?
I saw this.
Let's just call it what it is. Like, they've got a really good band. I was like,
we've got a really good band.
Yeah, it made me effing laugh, right? This is a side tangent. I watched the North Carolina game.
Oh, yeah.
The Belichick game. And I was like, dude, you're North Carolina. Like, get a fucking better band.
Right.
Like, their band was, like, ridiculous. Like, don't you watch what we do? So kudos to the highest state fucking band. Like, I think we take it for granted. Like, dude, it's like watching, I don't know, Beyonce every time. But I was like, you're North Carolina. Like, there were 17 people out there, and they were just, like, falling around. I was like, that is terrible. And so I love the Grambling coaches, like, this is about the band. We're going to take our $3 million and get out of there. So what are we talking about? Kudos to that guy. I love that guy.
I love that. That was a great quote. Yeah, back to that North Carolina game. They were miscast as a primetime player on opening week of the college football season, right? I mean, this is just not their wheelhouse. Look, fast forward to fucking March. That's when that's your wheelhouse, North Carolina, and the NCAA tournament, right? You stay in your lane, right? Now, Bill Belichick, rough debut. Ironically, Matt Patricia, who many, part of the reason for the criticism of the Patricia hire was that many believed that Patricia was just some kind of lackey, some yes man working under Belichick for all those years and didn't really, make any decisions or wasn't really trusted to call plays or do anything under Belichick. And then ironically, it's Patricia who's, gets rave reviews on the opening weekend in his new role, and Belichick was a faceplant.
So not that this is a New England Patriots podcast, but come on. Belichick just better get out of the game and get on his yacht, because his legacy is getting tarnished by the minute.
Yeah.
Right? because you lose Tom, guess what? You're not that great. Patricia goes on and does this. He's pretty freaking great. When you're on, guess what? When you were at the Cleveland Browns, you weren't that great, right? And guess who your defensive coordinator, and I don't even know why I know this shit, but guess who your defensive coordinator was? Nick Saban. Yeah. He was pretty fucking great. Hey, Bill, just get your 24-year-old girlfriend and get on the yacht and get out of there, dude. You got millions. Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
It'll be interesting to see how long this goes. How long North Carolina allows it to go on or Belichick's camp or his girlfriend. I'm with you, PVH. Health and wellness should be priority one for the Buckeyes on Saturday. I want to see some serious load management for players like Caden Curry, who played a whopping 59 snaps against Texas. I'd also seriously consider sitting both Kenyatta Jackson, who we think is in concussion protocol, and Edric Houston, who's still probably healing from his leg injury from training camp. Houston played 39 snaps against Texas. I'd also think about limiting snaps for Caden McDonald. McDonald played 38 snaps against Texas. By the way, PVH, McDonald, he was a beast against Texas. He finished with 8 tackles, which according to Tony Gerdeman of Buckeye Huddle, were the most by an Ohio State nose tackle in a single game since 2012.
I saw it, dude. Nice for that dude.
Yeah. Awesome. McDonald was also the Buckeyes' highest graded defender, according to PFF, with an overall grade of 82.4. Will Smith Jr. and Tywan Malone also played really well against Texas. In 16 snaps, Smith Jr. finished as Ohio State's second highest graded defender with an overall grade of 80.7. And in 14 snaps, Malone was their fourth highest graded defender with an overall grade of 69.7. I'd give Smith Jr. and Malone the lion's share of the snaps on Saturday. It was really good to see those two play well against Texas because there was a lot of consternation during the offseason about interior defensive line depth. But after 1 week, I got to say it looks like the Buckeyes are in pretty good shape, on the interior in terms of the depth. Also, you've already said it, let's get the training wheels off Julian Sayin. Let him sling it around in this game. I'm expecting some big numbers from Sayin and the Ohio State receivers in the first half on Saturday. Finally, as we've agreed, I've referenced it earlier, I want to see the young running backs, James Peoples and Bo Jackson, get some serious work on Saturday. And I hope Carlos Lachlan takes advantage of the opportunity to really get those two a lot of carries in this game. Get the starting offense and starting defense to the bench before halftime. At the very latest, they should all be on the bench by the early third quarter. I really do not want to see any of the starters in beyond that point. Yeah, what else you got for me, PVH, in this matchup?
Dude, how about, Will Smith Jr.?
Yeah.
His dad got fucking shot in the chest, right? I mean, that dude was a baller. And, he was an instrumental part of the 2002 national championship team. And, it almost felt like when he got recruited, maybe, it's good for him, man. I'm happy to see him getting some playing time and making contributions. So that is awesome.
Significant playing time. I mean, 14 snaps in a game of those stakes are no joke. All right, PVH.
Okay, hold on, because I know where you're going next.
Okay.
Let's give it 90-second. What about Alabama?
Oh, yeah. What about Alabama? So it's interesting, right? I mean, Kalen DeBoer clearly really struggling there. They looked really bad against FSU, a revitalized FSU with Gus Malzahn, their new offensive coordinator. I thought FSU looked great. But, Bama, what is that? Their fourth butt kicking within the last, 14 months. I mean, some of these games.
Against unranked teams.
Some of these results, unranked teams have not been good. I think it was Tony Gerdeman who had said this. Look, what in his view, what we're seeing is what Alabama was before Nick Saban got there. They're regressing to the mean.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
I mean, you had a generational coach, right? That came in and did something, maybe the greatest coach of all time, right? But the expectations now, are so through the roof. Well, actually, now I think about it, Bear Bryant was pretty good, but that's Woody Hayes.
Yeah, but in between Bryant and Saban, I think they had one national championship. It was like Gene Stallings in 1992. Otherwise, they've been an 8-9 win program perennially, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I'm looking at their schedule last year. So they lost 40-35 to Vanderbilt. They lose on the road at Tennessee. That's no shame in that. They lose by a touchdown. But then they get just boat race by Oklahoma, who finished 6-7 last year.
Yeah, they
boat
were
race,
bad last
3
year.
touchdown loss to Oklahoma. That was on the road. That was a bad loss. And then you lose to a Michigan team in the ReliaQuest Bowl that was resting all of its best players, right? They were injured or just sat out.
They got rolled by Michigan.
They got rolled by Michigan and then losing badly to FSU. I mean, to say the seat is hot for Kalen DeBoer is an understatement there. Ohio State and Alabama sit atop the blue chip ratio rankings. And if you look at the 24/7 team talent composite, I believe Alabama's on top of that or number 2 behind Georgia. So that there is an embarrassment of riches in terms of talent there.
Yeah,
it certainly isn't talent.
Yeah, it's not a rebuild, is what you're saying.
Not a rebuild. The other thing about Alabama is it makes you, as an Ohio State fan, appreciate how recession-proof Ohio State has been, because we're going to talk about Oklahoma here in a second, but that's a program that's fallen off. Texas won the national title in 2005, and then they went lost in the desert for 15 years after that. Look at where USC is right now after that great run under Pete Carroll all those years. And now watching Alabama struggle, just really, I appreciate how recession-proof the program has been. There was a piece in the New York Times, by the way. New York Times acquired the Athletic, so anything published in the Athletic goes, up into the New York Times. But there was in the print version of the New York Times, there was like a 3-page piece on Ohio State's football success and how recession-proof they've been. And watching Alabama struggle really just makes me appreciate that as a fan.
Dude, I mean, go back. Okay, so Alabama for the last 25 years, unequivocally probably the best team, right? They've won, 4 national championships. That being said, that's one. We are 1A, right? We have 3. USC, give me a break, right? You had a Pete Carroll era. Texas, you got 1,
Georgia got 2.
Georgia got 2.
And they're still in the fray, right?
Sure. Clemson, you got... But, dude, those teams have had dips. My point is we don't have dips.
That's right.
Right?
We're always there. We're always there.
Always fucking there.
We're always right there. There may be a program, and that's kind of how it's going. Doug Lesmerises has made this point several times on his podcast that Ohio State is always right there. There may be a team that peaks and is slightly playing just a little bit better, maybe beats Ohio State on the way to a national championship, if it's Clemson, if it's Alabama. But Ohio State is the mainstay. They're always there in that top 3 or 4 every single year, while these other teams maybe win their titles, but then they drop off. They have a recession. Yeah. And that is a huge testament to everything about the program. All the support that's there, the folks that are in charge there, but also the fans. I feel like we do our part as fans to help maintain the high standard there as well. The lunatic fringe.
Okay, Kirk. Yes, we do. But yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing run. It's been going on since 2000. And sometimes there's some little valleys, and we go in there. But dude, it's not like losing to Michigan in 1998 and stuff. And my God, like the future's bright. And I think Ohio State, dude, there is no other program in college football that you'd rather be a fan for.
Not right.
Zero.
No. Now there is one thing they haven't accomplished yet as a program, which has gone back-to-back national titles. And I'm greedy. I know you like to say we're playing with house money. I'm greedy. I want another goddamn title. I want to see it back-to-back in my lifetime. And, man, the team I watched on Saturday has a good shot. All right, buddy. Before I let you go, let's have a look at the only matchup between ranked teams happening this weekend, and that's number 15 Michigan at number 18 Oklahoma. Now, this is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on ABC. The line is Oklahoma minus 5.5. The over-under is 45.5. Both teams come into this game at 1-0. Michigan is coming off a 34-17 home win over New Mexico last Saturday. Freshman phenom Bryce Underwood threw for 251 yards and 1 touchdown in his college debut. And the Michigan ground game pounded the Lobos for 201 yards at 6.3 yards per carry and 3 rushing touchdowns. Oklahoma is coming off a 35-3 home win over Illinois State last Saturday. Sooner quarterback John Mateer, the Washington State transfer, lit up the Redbirds for 392 yards passing and accounted for 4 touchdowns in that game. PVH, who do you like in this one?
Michigan. I think Sharon Moore is actually a pretty good coach.
Yeah, I agree.
I know Bryce Underwood's a pretty good player.
He's an Oklahoma alum, by the way.
Is he really?
Yeah, he was an offensive lineman at Oklahoma.
Yeah. So I have I didn't watch one play of. I'm assuming they're both 1-0.
They are.
Venables.
Both 1-0.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. And in fact, I'm going to lay some loot on Michigan when I get to Vegas, because I think Michigan's going to be pretty good this year, and I'm still just not a believer in Oklahoma and Venables. So
yeah. I don't think these are your father's Oklahoma Sooners, right? The Sooners are coming off a disappointing 6-7 season a year ago. I mentioned it earlier. That was their second 6-7 season under Brent Venables, by the way, since he took the reins in 2022. Michigan has the better program right now. I think it'll be close, but I like Michigan in this game by, I don't know, a field goal. I'll take the Wolverines. One other game, real quick. I just noticed this as I was scrolling through the slate for Saturday. Let me find it real quickly here. Your team, your guys, the Illinois Fighting Illini, the Brett Bielema's Illinois Fighting Illini, your team, PVH, the team you've put into the college football playoff already. They have an interesting game.
I said that?
Yeah, they're one of your picks to make the Big Ten to make the college football playoff. This is interesting. They are rated number 11 in the AP poll right now. They're heading to Durham for a non-conference matchup with Duke. The spread is only Illinois minus 2.5. Over-under is 49.5. I don't have any big opinions about Duke, but I am on record with Illinois that they were a bit of a smoke and mirror show last year. I'm highly skeptical of Illinois. And it looks like Vegas agrees they got a tricky game here against Duke. That's another game I'll be keeping my eye on. What do you think? You're going to lay some green on that one, PVH?
Yeah, I might, and I'm going to take the Brett Bielema's, but what time is kick? Is Duke
noon Eastern
good?
Noon Eastern on ESPN.
So you're telling me there's a Big Ten team going to ACC country, number 11 team versus an unranked team, and the line is only 2? That makes no sense.
Well, this Duke team, and I'm not sure how many returning starters they have, but they had a pretty respectable season last year, 9-4.
This screams trap to me, which I'm going to fall right into. I'm going to take the Bielema's every day of the week for at least 100, and I'm sure I'm going to lose. But that screams trap. But to your point, that's a good call out.
Yeah, interesting. That'll be a nice little appetizer to Ohio State. I think that's the plan for me. Illinois, Duke, then Ohio State, Grambling State, and then I'm going to sit down and put my feet up and hate watch Michigan, Oklahoma. That's the program for me.
Yeah, you're going to do. So my plan is I'll be at the pool. I'm going to pour myself a drink. I'm going to get another drink, and that'll be around 9 o'clock on Saturday. And you can just text me what's going on with college football. But that's why we love each other.
All right, buddy. I'm happy to keep you in the loop. That was a nice effort. Why don't we end things there? Yep. For our listeners, look for a recap of the Grambling State game from yours truly on Sunday. Until then, thanks so much for listening, and go Bucks. You've been listening to The South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. Follow us on X at South_Stands.